Welcome to the Hockey Writers Flames Faceoff, a weekly show with our top Calgary Flames writing crew, bringing you the latest news, rumors, trades, player grades, game results, and much more. From training camp to the playoffs, from draft day to the trade deadline, our team covers everything that happens with the Flaming Sea. So get set, get focused. It's time for the Flames Faceoff. Flames Faceoff.
Hello, everybody. My name is Paul Quinney, and this is the Flames Faceoff, brought to you by the Hockey Writers. Now, we're a weekly show, and to make sure you don't miss an episode, what you can do is you can like this video on YouTube. You can give us a follow on Twitter and Facebook, and a like also on YouTube and Facebook. And make sure that you follow or you share this video with your fellow Flames fans. And do check out some of the great hockey content that we have here at thehockeywriters.com. So with that, I'd like to get going and introduce the panel. We have with us, as we usually do this week, Greg Tysowski. Greg, welcome. How are things?
Pretty good. I've told my beer league hockey team that I'll shave my beard when I get my first goal of the season. But just a caveat to that, I only scored one goal last season. So this thing could be around for a while, just so you know, just so our viewers can mentally prepare themselves.
All right. Well, I don't know. Maybe your wife, if she doesn't like the beard, could pay off somebody on the team to set you up for a goal or something. But
I'll take anything I can get. Anything.
Yeah. And we have with us also Mr. Brett Krauss. Brett, how are you?
I'm doing well, Paul. How are you doing today?
I have no complaints at all.
That's good.
Balmy weather out here. So, yeah, let's get right down to it. I wanted to start with the Flames, the takeaways from the week. Of course, they're on a roll, 7-3-1, extended their point streak to 10 games. But I thought before we did that, I was wondering, let's take a look at the chant that was going all night in the Saddle Dome. Fox, you suck. I understand the sentiment of Cowtown fans, but I'm just wondering, if we could arrive at perhaps a more eloquent, perhaps a more informed argument against the young defenseman from New York. I'm not sure if could be an improvement project for Flames Nation this year. I don't know. Greg, your take on it? Fox, you suck.
Personally, I love it when the fans get on a player. It doesn't take much for someone to be in the bad books in the Saddle Dome. Like, you do one thing, you hit the star player once, and you get booed for 10 years. Like, there's a laundry list of players who the Flames have booed, and I think Adam Fox is a prime candidate. He not only spurned the Flames, but he spurned Carolina. Like, he was not going to sign anywhere but the Rangers. He's a New York kid, and there's no way he's ever coming to Calgary. And Calgary Flames fans will not forget. I won't forget. I'm going to boom next time I'm at the Saddle Dome too, if he ever shows up. Like, I don't mind that one bit. I think that's great. When fans, this is what we miss the fans. This is what it's all about, and I loved his reaction after he scored his goal that was eventually taken away. He was like doing the Hulk Hogan. He was like doing this to the crowd. Like, that back and forth is great. I think NHL needs more of that, not less of it.
Yeah, he paid the price when that goal was called offside. So that was all over the face. Brett, I saw your tweet on it. That's why I kind of stole this idea from your tweet. I think I know where you stand, but where do you think they can mount a more erudite argument against Fox than Fox, you suck?
Yeah, I think I would have liked the crowd to be a little bit more creative, because it's pretty hard to justify yelling "you suck" to the reigning Norris Trophy winner. But no, I loved it too. I think it was great. They were just giving it to him all night. Like, he touched the puck on the blue line for not even a second, and people are yelling at him, and so. No, I love that stuff. I think it's great. And like Greg said, people don't forget. And I think, signing a $9.5 million a year contract for 7 years, I think he can handle, 15,000 people, giving it to you for one night a year.
Mhm.
Yeah. I'd probably be willing to handle it for a lot less. But yeah, but it was also
7 million.
Yeah, I'll take 7. But it was also good the way to Chuck. He was really getting on him, just giving him shots here and there. Nothing major that would draw a penalty, but enough to get under his skin. But that's to Chuck. So it was good fun.
Yeah.
Good times had by all.
Yeah.
Last night. But I guess question for you I'll throw out here, guys, is there's no argument. They're one of the best teams in the league right now. But can they maintain this pace? They haven't lost a game in regulation. They dropped that first one to the Oilers, but it's been, pretty good sailing since. I guess the question, and others have the same question, is, Daryl Sutter hockey isn't an easy system to play for 82 straight games. They try to use a high-paced, high-energy first period to get the lead, and when that doesn't happen for them, they'll resort to keeping the games tight and capitalizing on their chances on the cycle and the rush. I guess the question I have, is eventually there's going to be a losing streak here for them, and how will they handle it? So Greg, what are your thoughts? Can they keep this pace up? Anything I've mentioned, would they be concerns, things they're thinking about in the coaching staff?
I'm actually a bit encouraged by this past week, is because and the Flames, in their first 2 games of the week, when those overtime losses, they really didn't have their A game, especially in that second game of the week when they played Dallas. And they still found a way to squeak out the loser point in both of those. And I think that's something that you wouldn't see in past seasons, especially, and Daryl Sutter even mentioned that when he had his post-game press conference. He actually didn't even seem all that upset. He was kind of happy that they came back and got the point, and that's kind of encouraging, because even Markstrom, who's been lights out, didn't play his best in those 2 games, and that Dallas game he laid out a real softie with 5 seconds to go in that second period, and yet the Flames still found a way. So if they can find a way to get points or stay in these games even when they don't have their A game, I'm actually pretty encouraged by that, because they've had some really good games, and they've had some kind of so-so games, but they've still managed to pull it out. So, and I think that's an encouraging sign for this team. And I don't know if they'll, go lights out all year long. There will be, ebbs and flows, ups and downs. But all in all, I'm pretty encouraged by this overall team effort.
Yeah. No, I noticed that Sutter's reaction. He didn't, as you pointed out, he didn't seem upset by those 2 overtime losses. And I guess, losses are to be expected if you're in the coaching business, but for Sutter, I guess it's the way you lose. And last year they lost badly. They just were not wanting to getting points, and probably that's the reason they didn't make the playoffs last year, was not collecting a point in those overtime games. But Brett, your take, can they keep this torrid pace up?
I mean, I don't think it'll be all season. They're on a, pretty hot streak here. They're top 5 in the league, but I think the big thing is that if they can do this right now, it sets them up for when that inevitable losing streak comes. Because if they, looking at the Pacific standings, Vegas is kind of faltering, San Jose is kind of surprised a little bit, and then of course Edmonton's ahead. But if they can kind of create some separation, then that gives them a cushion if things go south for a week or 2, and they maybe pick up a win over 6 games, or go on a losing streak. So I think what matters right now is just playing like they are and continuing this pace, so that they kind of have some room to if that does happen, then they're not too worried coming out of a losing streak or anything like that.
Yeah. I mean, the question I have sometimes, last night was a 6-0 shelling of New York. It's not as if, goals come hard for them. You can't characterize them. I guess my question is, who are these guys? I mean, are they a low-scoring defensive team, or are they or an offensive power? Greg, can you characterize them at this point? I guess I'm confused as to, if I had to put them in a bucket, where would I put them?
Well, I think what's making it hard to categorize them is that they're kind of all things to all people, because they have this top unit that is currently playing at kind of elite level. It kind of reminds me of when a few years ago when Lindholm first showed up, when it was Lindholm and Monahan and Goudreau. They were just on fire. They were like the top line in the league for the first half of the year. And this Lindholm, Goudreau, and Tkachuk line, like they're accounting for, I think you mentioned last week, like 40% of the points or something. Like they're very top heavy right now. And if this line keeps producing, they had 9 points last night, and in this for those three guys. So if they keep producing at this pace, they're currently having no trouble getting scoring out of that top line. But if they falter, where is this team? Do they count on the defensive, defensive systems to kind of get them through it? So right now they're kind of a hybrid team. Now they're playing this Sutter style hockey, but that top line is really going. So it's kind of hard to peg them as one thing right now.
Yeah. Brett, your thoughts on what their true colors are? What bucket would you put them into, or can you?
Yeah, I think they're definitely right now a very good two-way team, I would put it, because they're, getting goals. Their top line is clicking. Mangiapane started hot. He's cooled off a bit, but just looking through their roster, I think Tyler Pitlick and Trevor Lewis are the only forwards who haven't scored for this team. So they're really getting their secondary scoring, which has been troublesome in the past, where when the top line goes quiet, there was no secondary scoring to help them out. So, you watch them play and they just, the team looks connected. They're, making passes. They're on the rush. It's just tape to tape and back into the other zone as, once the team gets it out of their zone. So it's right now they're just kind of doing a little bit of everything. So, kind of hard to say what this team is, but they're just doing all the right things right now.
Well, I'm glad you guys have brought up the lines. And Greg, I want to start with you on this one. You wrote an article this week entitled "Flames Forward Lines Could See a Major Shakeup After the Ritchie Injury." And I guess I wanted to ask you, I want you to get into that article, but I wanted to ask you about the Coleman Backlund Pitlick line. Do you think they'll become the same grind line that was Coleman, Yanni Gordy, and Barclay Goodrow, with Tampa? Are the Flames trying to recreate that one here in Calgary? If they could, I think it could be important, because with Tampa, that grind line provided defense and also some secondary scoring. I mean, what's your take on that?
Well, I think you're kind of bang on. I think they're hoping that the Lightning can strike twice in a fashion, because Coleman is that player, and so is Backlund. Backlund over the years has been described as one of the best two-way centers, in the league. Maybe he's tapering off somewhat as he gets older, but I think that line does have a good chance of being kind of a grind line. But in my article, I wrote that I wouldn't mind seeing them put Mangiapane on that line, because Mangiapane is also like a 200-foot player. Like he's, an offensive threat, but he also plays the PK. Like he's very defensive responsibly as well. And so I think you should tweak that grind line and put Mangiapane on it, because although he's been having good success, he's kind of been playing, he's playing with a center who's not really a center, and Dylan Dubé, and he's had, Milan Lucic on his line the last couple of games, because that shakeup of the lines really didn't happen. They just kind of like tweaked a couple of things in that bottom six. So I would like to see Mangiapane, play with Coleman and Backlund. And in the past, he had some good success playing with Backlund in a revamped 3M line last year. So I think that's my take on it. I think I like that grind line, but I do think Mangiapane should probably replace Pitlick, because he's been pretty solid, but he hasn't really done anything offensively.
Yeah. Brett, your thoughts on that line, and to Greg's point, would you yank Pitlick out of there and replace him with Mangiapane?
Yeah, I think if you put Mangiapane on that line, that probably gets you closer to that Tampa Bay line, I think, because they contributed quite a bit of offense. I mean, Yanni Gourde went to Seattle and he's kind of been their number one center, so that kind of tells you how good that line was. And yeah, and same thing. Mangiapane is good in his own end. He's just solid in the corners and he's hard on pucks. So I think that would definitely add offense to that line. But with Pitlick on it too, like you watch them and they just suffocate their opponents. They're just all over them, and it doesn't they don't spend a lot of time in their own zone. It kind of, the puck goes in and then they're kind of all over it and back out it goes, either Backlund or Coleman are carrying it out. And so I like that line, but I think definitely Mangiapane could add, some more offense to that line for sure.
Mm-hmm. So before we just close off the takeaways from the week, give me one thing, guys, that, the Flames are riding high now, but you've got to look forward. What aspects of their game do you worry about or think they need to improve as high as they're riding now? Greg, thought?
It's funny. I wrote last week in the Flames Weekly column that I was having a bit of trouble, finding things to criticize the Flames for, because when you're on a 10-game point streak, it's kind of hard to pinpoint things. But I think secondary scoring is something that you really need to get heated up, because I know that guys like Coleman have, I think, 3 goals. I think they were hoping for more out of him. Surprisingly, Milan Lucic has 4 goals, which is the same as Johnny Gaudreau and more than half of the forwards on this team. So I think if I was to pinpoint something that they need to work on, is that first line is going like gangbusters, and you even have Monahan scoring on the power play. But you need I think those bottom 3 lines to kind of start kicking in a few more goals. And it was a good sign to see Brad Richardson in the second game get a nice goal last night. That's what they need more of, because when that top line of Tkachuk and Gaudreau and Lindholm falter, what Brett was saying before is 100% true. You really need secondary scoring. So I think that's probably would be my only real takeaway right now.
Yeah. Brett, your thoughts on that? Everything's Hakuna Matata, but is there something they need to work on, right?
I think really the only thing right now is kind of been their overtimes, even though they've been good enough, I think, in those games, but it's been, one small error and it's costing them a point, which, is, I think early on, they really need to get those overtime wins. They were all over Dallas in that one game, and then Jamie Benn just walked in and fired it home. And same with Nashville. They were, pretty good in the overtime, and then it was just one turnover. Then they came down and scored. So, I think that, and there's still some consistency issues. I think they have, a great first period and then come out kind of flat in the second, or flat in the first, but then come out good in the second and third. So right now they're pretty small things, but it's like Greg said, hard to criticize this team currently, but just some small things for sure.
Okay. So switching gears here, Jack Eichel, how lucky or unlucky, if you're in that camp, were the Flames in not acquiring Jack Eichel? Did Calgary dodge a bullet in missing Eichel, or an opportunity? Should Flames fans be disappointed or relieved that the Flames didn't get him? Greg, I'm going to turn to you on this one. What's your take on Eichel?
It's funny because I've been kind of beating the drum for years that the Flames never seem to make that big blockbuster move, and they just tinker. And I was waiting for the Flames to do something big, and this was their chance. But the fact that, Eichel has this injury and this surgery that no current NHLer has had before, it just kind of put a cloud over everything, and it kind of really muddled my thoughts, because I thought I would be all in for a Jack Eichel trade, to really shake things up and, and put the team over the top. But the fact that it was kind of muddled by the injury and everything else, I really don't really know what to think. And the whole thing has been kind of this odd, almost controversial. There's been conspiracy theories. Like it depends on which hockey pundit you believe. Like there are some guys who are adamant out there who claim that Tkachuk was definitely part of a package, and then there's others who say no, it was Kevin Weeks and Kevin Adams colluded to like put it out there to kind of up the deal for Vegas. There's all kinds of scenarios, and I really don't know what to believe. Like I don't think Tkachuk was really in the mix, but only Brad Treliving knows that, and Kevin Adams, and they're, even though Adams is denying it, no one really. So it's a weird situation, and I really don't know what to think. But in the end, the fact the Flames are playing so well right now, it kind of softens the blow that they didn't get another big player. So I'm gonna kind of put it out there and saying I don't know what's going on, and I can't really form an opinion. So I'm looking forward to what you guys think.
Yeah, Brett, relieved or disappointed that they didn't get him?
I think it's disappointing. I think that's especially the way this team is playing right now. Like adding a guy like Jack Eichel would definitely have put them in the conversation of a Stanley Cup contender. The one thing I've kind of noticed, you get a lot of fans' opinions. Oh, they don't need Jack Eichel. He's not worth the $10 million. But I mean, the guy only played, I think, a handful of games last season, and he hasn't played this season. And I think what a lot of people have kind of forgotten is how good he actually is. He's still far and above, other than Connor McDavid, ahead of the other guys in that 2015 draft in terms of points. So, and then just kind of seeing what it took for Vegas to get him, I'm kind of, it's disappointing for sure. I think the Flames could have, matched that. I think the only reason Vegas got it was because they had some guys on the long-term injured reserve and the money was easier to work with. There was rumors that Arizona was trying to get in there to make money work, and I would assume that the Flames would have been talking to them. But I think this team is still missing a high impact forward to kind of, because then you could kind of have a second line between the Backlund line and the Lindholm line that is also a scoring line. So yeah, I think it's disappointing, especially seeing what it eventually took Vegas to pry him out of Buffalo.
Yeah. Well, Brett, Greg touched on this earlier to Chuck. Was he part of the trade package or not? I guess I'm interested in to Chuck's comments after, and he said, look, I was never part of that. I don't believe I was part of that. He sounds happy about that. Does he sound like a guy who's intent on staying in Calgary? A guy that's happy here?
I think so. He's never, he's never really seemed like he's kind of in a bad attitude sort of way. I mean, it was a down year last year, but it was for everybody on the team. So I think you see last night, and he scores that between the legs goal. He's got a big grin on his face, and all the guys are pretty fired up for him. So I think this year's going well. I think there probably was a conversation at some point that, they were probably throwing back and forth, trades and what do you want? What do you want? And, I think it was Kelly Rudy last night who said his GM, whichever team he was with, he says, I've talked about all you guys and trading all of you guys on this team at one point or another. So yeah, it's not that they're actively looking to trade Tkachuk, but you gotta explore the possibilities and look at it from every angle for a player like Jack Eichel.
Yeah, Greg, I don't know, read the tea leaves here based on Tkachuk's comments. I think he sounded happy about it. Is he a happy camper? I mean, he's going to be difficult, as Tkachuk's always are, at the negotiating table, but is this a good sign for a re-signing? Because I think they've got to do it before the trade deadline. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I think he wants to stay in Calgary. Like, I don't know if anybody would want to be dealt to the tire fire that has been the Buffalo Sabres in recent seasons. Like, they're just not really a desirable place to go. And they're actually having a decent start this year, but they haven't been great. And it's kind of why Jack Eichel wanted out of there. I think he wanted to be away from that organization. So I think Tkachuk, I had a prediction earlier a bold prediction in one of my articles saying that he would sign a long-term deal and be named the team's next captain. And that just happened in Ottawa, where the Senators named Brady Tkachuk captain of the team after signing a long-term deal. And I think Calgary is probably next in line to do exactly that. And I, based on, I've never got the impression that he wants out of Calgary. I think he likes his team and he seems committed to it. So, I think I'm standing by my bold prediction. I think a deal will get done today, and I think he'll be announced as the Flames' next captain.
All right. Yeah. Well, related, to what we're talking about with Eichel, I guess the question a lot of fans have is, what does Treliving do now? The fact that they were interested in Eichel suggests that they're in the market for a center. Thomas Hertl from San Jose, he'll be a UFA next summer. Should they pursue him? Brett, you wrote a piece, I think last week, entitled "Flames Should Trade for Kravtsov if the price is right." Let me start with you, Brett. What tweaking does Treliving do? Are those two possibilities for the Flames?
Yeah, I think, I still like Kravtsov's, possibility of being an NHLer. He went back to the KHL this weekend with Tractor there, and, he had a beautiful overtime goal and I think 2 or 3 points in his first game back. So I think he's more than able to play in the NHL. And, he's even said that he's willing to go play for a season in the AHL with another team, which, kind of suggested to me that there's something going on with New York's management, that it's kind of 2 high profile prospects with Leah Sanderson and now Kravtsov wanting out of the organization. So I think that's a guy that could help, maybe not this season, but down the road. It's just another prospect to add to the pipeline. But now that the Eichel saga is over and, no more Calgary Flames rumors for now, I think I'd like to see them go for a big trade deadline acquisition. I'm not sure if, I think it's going to be, depends where San Jose is, if Hertl's available, because they've kind of gotten off to an okay start. And another one, I believe, is Philip Forsberg in Nashville is a pending free agent this year, I believe. So it'll be interesting to see. But I think for me, if they kind of continue at this pace, kind of around the Olympic break, they're, top 5 in the league. I'd kind of like to see them go for another, big name if it's out there.
Yeah. Greg, I'm going to give the final thought to you on this one. Is a big acquisition in the cards? The thing I wonder about is salary cap considerations. I think a problem there is looming. Did some quick math. So if you sign Gaudreau, Chuck, and Mangiapane, those guys could cost you up to 21, 22 million, and that would leave around 10 in cap space to sign 15 other players. Do you see some big acquisitions coming up in Treliving's to-do list?
Well, I kind of agree with Brett. Is that if the Flames are still flying high at the trade deadline, that's the kind of time when teams kind of load up. If they're really going to be a contender, they're going to want to load up for the playoffs and maybe get a couple of rentals. And of course, that doesn't. They would have to send money out the other way if they're going to take on a couple of big trades at the trade deadline. So I think that's the route they might go. Is probably load up at the trade deadline and maybe get looking at some help up the middle with some of the guys that we've been talking about, like Hertl or whatnot. And so that's what I would think. I really don't know if there's some big deal, because you're right about Paul, about the upcoming, contract extensions that they have on the table. Like if they sign all those guys, there's not a lot of room to make some big deal and sign someone big. So I think maybe it might be trade deadline stuff that we can look forward to, if anything, if the Flames are still going strong. And if they're not, and if they fall off completely, and maybe they would do it a fire sale and get rid of a bunch of contracts at the trade deadline as well. So reload. So for the next season. So I don't know. It's I think all depends if the Flames can continue on this pace and continue playing like they've been playing, because right now, they have a goalie with 4 shutouts and they have a hot first line. Like they have a lot of stuff going right for them right now. And so they might not need a whole lot of tweaking come trade deadline.
Well, hey, let's start a rumor here anyway. Salary cap considerations means Monahan's getting shipped out the door. So you heard it for first.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, anyway, thank you, gentlemen. We've run out of time, unfortunately, but as always, this has been a great discussion, a lot of fun. And thank you, everybody, for joining us this week. And we'll be back next week with another episode of the Flames Faceoff. And in the meantime, make sure you don't miss an episode by subscribing to this YouTube channel, giving us a follow on Twitter and Facebook, a like on YouTube and Facebook, and be sure to share this with your fellow Calgary Flames fans. Until next week, take care. Thank you.